Hello, good morning. My guest today for you is Bob McTavish. Bob's the man who revolutionised surfing in Australia by introducing the shortboard revolution way back in the 1960s. For decades, Bob McTavish lived a life of pure adventure, living on bread, as he says, and bananas for months, eating spiders, diving off cliffs, sleeping in cars, and surfing for as long as humanly possible. These days, Bob still runs his own surfboard factory in Byron Bay, and he surfs every day when he can. His memoir is a very vivid evocation of the old surf culture of the 60s. The boards, the cars, the girls, the beers, the beaches, the whole thing, and it's simply called Stoked. Bob McTavish, welcome to Conversations.
Thanks, Richard. It's a pleasure to be here.
Gee, your book's vivid. It really takes you back to that time and place. You had the beaches all to yourselves then, didn't you, pretty much?
Absolutely. For example, the first time I surfed Noosa, I went up with old Pa Bendel. I was sleeping in the Caloundra Surf Club, and they wouldn't let me in during the week into the actual club itself. So I slept in the first aid room on a little bed that was there. And every morning, Pa would come around in his little old prefect and pick me up and take me surfing at Moffat's or down at King's. But this particular day, he rolled up in a ranch wagon, his big Ford, and he said, "Come on, mate, we're going somewhere different." He was an old Canadian guy. So we chucked my board in, and we rumbled off up through the hills, through Nambour, and all these little back roads into Noosa, and we pulled up on the beach where the surf club is now, and there's this magnificent point with waves stacked all through it and not a soul out. So we tried surfing first point first, but he couldn't handle it because the waves were zippy and fast. But to me, it was like like a swimming pool. The sun was bouncing off the white sandy bottom, and these perfect waves were spinning down the point. I was, what a fantastic place! So we went out to National Park further around after that, and Park could handle that. And I caught a wave from National Park right through to Johnson's, and we're like 200 or 300 yards apart. And I'm looking, Par's way out there, and I'm way in there, and I go, what an incredible place! I've just ridden away for 200 yards, but I wish there were some more people around. Wishes come true.
Sometimes they do come true.
Yeah.
Indeed. You're a legend in the surfing world. Tim Winton, who's written the intro to your biography, speaks with you with reverence. He's got a framed picture of you on his wall. Are you mates with Tim these days?
Yeah, in a way, because he's the opposite side of the world. But every time we have a conversation, it's very warm, and we've got tremendous respect for one another. When I sent my manuscript to him cheekily and said, "Would you write a foreword?" he rang me back and said, "I've got a picture of you over my kitchen table, so I better write a foreword. I've never done one before, but I'll do it for you." So I just posted him off a book this morning, because the book's only been out a week. So this morning at Toowong Post Office, I packaged it up and sent it off to Tim with a note of great appreciation.
So it's on its way, Tim. And I'll just quote him here from his introduction. He says, "Surfing was like a physical form of jazz, a kind of beatnik thing that involved outdoor activity rather than mere slouching and pouting into the coffee houses. It was rebellious yet grateful. Surfers were inarticulate in the main, but often strangely poetic. What they did on the water was beautiful and pointless, and this is what made it so confounding." Is he right? Isn't that
wonderful?
Is that a wonderful thing to say?
You know what I just wrote in the jacket when I sent it to him? I said, "Tim, you captured surfing in my foreword and in the first half of his book, Breath, like no other writer's ever captured it." And I added that you really nailed the stoke. You know,
what is the stoke?
The stoke, it's adrenaline, it's freedom, it's being able to express yourself. I imagine like a musician, which I'm not, but it's getting pumped up on life and just how good things are. And life can't be any better when you're stoked.
Is it living perfectly in the moment?
In the moment.
Past is not there. Future you don't think about. You're just in that moment.
In the moment, yes, totally. I'm not saying it's a Zen type of thing. It's just, I mean, that's the way humans are. We're basically in the moment, but all the pressures of life can tear that apart. So being stoked is when, in the moment, things are just great.
You're 65 now, Bob.
Uh-huh.
Are you still getting stoked? Are you
of course.
Are you?
My life is a stoked life. Yeah.
Are you still catching the big waves?
Oh, sure. I like riding big waves. In Australia, the big wave is 10 or 12 feet. We don't get much bigger. It gets out of control. But that's as far as I like to go these days, is 10 or 12 feet.
10 or 12 feet's still pretty big, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty solid. You can get work pretty badly. But I've learned at 65 to don't put myself in situations that could really hurt myself, but so I don't take some of the chances that younger surfers do. But I still like big waves. It's only water.
Your dad sounds like a lovely bloke. Was he a bit of a dreamer?
Absolutely. Dad, 21 years at the Commonwealth Bank, got passed over for a promotion. He wanted to computerise the Commonwealth Bank. And this is back in 1956.
Well, they said, you're crazy.
He said, you're crazy. And he was passed over for a promo, so he quit. And he grabbed they had a party for him leaving, so he grabbed the fire extinguisher off the wall and sprayed everybody with the contents. And that's true, because I was up at Mooloolaba one day just recently, and a guy came up to me and says, "Are you Bob McTavish?" I said, "Yep." "Your dad sprayed me with foam from a fire extinguisher in 1956. That was his farewell gesture as we lumbered off, supposedly heading off to Darwin for a new life in this giant old caravan. But we didn't get too far. We got as far as the Marburg Ranges, and the wheel fell off the caravan. So we ended up in Brisbane. We got from Toowoomba to Brisbane, which was perfect for me because in 1956 I started surfing. I was 12 years old, and we started going to the coast every weekend in our little George Pickers 10x10 tent, cram the kids in at Currumbin on the beach, and surf. So that gave me surfing life.
Tell me about your very first board.
It was a dog. The captain of the Currumbin Surf Club sold us this big 16-foot plywood board for £3, and it had a big punched-in rail because it had washed up on the rocks. It used to be a pile of rocks in the middle of Currumbin.
Boards were made out of plywood?
Oh, yeah. Up until 1956 or 57, they were all made of plywood, hollow boards with plywood.
What did that mean then? I mean, did they get waterlogged or something, or
yes,
what?
They sucked in water pretty badly, but they were quite light for their volume. But those boards were they were the leftovers of the surf club era. Well, the surf club era was in the 50s. If you surfed, you were in a surf club. In fact, right through into the early 60s, because they owned surfing. And that I wasn't going to stand for that. I wanted to go travelling and just go surfing. But those boards were for paddle races in and out around a buoy. So they were long and sleek and quite efficient in a straight line. But as soon as you caught a wave, they were tragic because they were so long and stiff that they wanted to nosedive or they wanted to veer off in a strange direction. So I had one wave on it in 1956 when my dad had repaired the board and we took it out of Currumbin. I said, I'm never going to ride that thing again. It was evil. The only good thing about it was when you paddled out to sea, past the break. I mean, body surfing up till that stage, but this is the first time on a surfboard. And I knee paddled out through the break and got out past the Elephant Rock at Currumbin. And it was so wonderful to be up high and out past the break because you could read the swells coming and you could pick the wave you want. And it was a total liberation instead of body surfing where you're down in the impact zone, down this deep in water.
Yeah, catch it. Now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It had to be precise. And on a surfboard, you could sit way out, choose the swell you wanted, paddle in, glide, get to your feet and start running. Well, that addiction and that first wave had me for life. The first time I stood up and glided down a swell. But instantly the board careened off to the right, tumbled, bang, washed into the beach. And my brother grabbed it and he went back out. So
I've captured my son's, it's not quite the same thing, my son's first experience on a boogie board. Very first experience. I got it on video. And he rides it all the way in, gets off, and he just went, "That was the most amazing thing." And then he starts jumping up and down on the spot.
he was stoked.
He was stoked. He was stoked. I'm worried I'm going to lose him to the culture.
Very likely.
But you said that board was a dog, so you made your own.
I went back that week, had a sheet of plywood under the house, a beat-up sheet of plywood, found some pine, and I made what would be today a boogie board. But it was solid, hollow plywood. Next weekend, back there, and I surfed it like lying down like a bodyboard.